What's up, everybody? Welcome to Headbanging Throught the Metal Talks. I'm Jamie. If you didn't know this, I am recording the Metal Talks version of Headbanging Through It on a separate channel called Headbanging Through It the Metal Talks. You can check it out there for extended versions of the chats that I do with little music clips. I'm not sure how those music clips are going to go yet because I haven't really done that many. And I don't have a sound system. So I'm not really sure if, it's going to be cool or not, but I'm doing it anyway. This is only my third episode of Metal Talks. It's still a work in progress, so I'm still figuring out the details, but hopefully you guys will check it out. So today I want to spend some time talking about punk music. Punk rock was a pretty huge deal for me in my youth. Yeah, I don't really listen to it very much anymore. I put on some Pennywise at the gym this morning and I haven't listened to that in quite a while. So it brought me back. I was trying to ramp myself up for this podcast and thinking fuck, I haven't listened to it in a while. How am I going to talk about it if I haven't listened to it in a while? So I've kind of been digging back into it a little bit and I have to say, I really fucking love punk rock. It just is this really, I don't know, it's got a good upbeat tempo. It's super fun. I love the bass in it. I love the whole messaging systems around punk music. It's kind of like anti-establishment, anti-authority, fuck the rules. And I think that's what I connected to the most about it in my youth because I was just going through a really hard time. I started listening to it when I was 13, grade 8, started high school. I've talked about this before, but I didn't have any friends when I started high school. And I was just kind of a lost soul wandering the hallways aimlessly without really any friends. And I ended up meeting a couple of really cool girls in the first couple of weeks of starting high school. I don't know why they talked to me. I feel like I was just this super introverted nerd. So I don't know how we ended up connecting. I don't remember the circumstances surrounding that, but I'm really glad that they saw something in me because I don't know how I would have survived my high school days without them. There was this one girl that just fucking loved punk rock, and she had an older brother who was really into punk rock. So whatever he was listening to, she was listening to. And then whatever she was listening to, she just kind of fed to me. And it changed all the time. She had bands that she was super into. She would throw me tapes and I'd throw them in my Walkman all the time. And I would just listen to whatever she gave me. It jumped around a lot from band to band. She loved Bad Religion, I think the most. I listened to them a bit and I really liked them. No Control was a really great album. But I spent a lot of time listening to Pennywise. I loved almost all of their early 90s albums. And I think what I love the most about punk is that it's just so fast. It was exciting to me. When I first started listening to it, I was just what the fuck is this? I can't believe there's music out there like this that I've never heard of before. And the sound was just so fucking cool. I also just didn't have really anywhere to go with how I was feeling about this move that I just went through with my family. 13 is a pretty pivotal age in your youth. And I was pretty pissed off about having been stripped from my home and where we were living because I had really bonded with some people and I had some really great friendships that had developed over the few years that we lived there. And I was really fucking sad. And with that, a little bit angry at my parents for taking away all of this stability and the love that I felt around these friendships. And I finally felt like I fit in somewhere. And then I was just ripped away from it. And that was just a repetitive cycle that I went through in my youth with the amount that we moved everywhere. But this one hit me really hard. With that move, it was something cracked in me and kind of broke in my heart and my soul. And I didn't want to forgive them for how I was feeling. So I had a lot of angst in me. I was just pissed off. That was the first time in my life I'd really ever felt like that. And I didn't know where to put all of my emotions and I didn't know how to deal with them. So when I met these girls and I started listening to this music, it just changed something. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And it was so hard to meet people every time we moved. It really just got harder and harder as I got older. And I remember stepping into some of these punk rock shows that I went to when I was 13, 14, 15, and stepping into these rooms full of people that I just looked at and immediately was like, holy fuck, I found my crew. It just kind of felt like this group of outcasts. And the music is kind of about that too. I think I also connected to it because of that. It was just just a little like out of the normal. I always felt like I didn't, really even fit in with my own family. I didn't feel like I really was seen in my family or had like a place in my family. I was always the like emotional one, the dramatic one, right? Loud and fiery. And it didn't always go over well in my house. My brother is the oldest and the only boy, so he had that. He was also like, and still is, a very social and outgoing person, and people connect with him really quickly. And then my older sister was super smart, like above average smart, and so she always had that going for her. And then my younger sister is the baby in my family, and the youngest. So she always had like that. And then there was just me. And I always felt like I was just this lost sheep in the woods waiting to be devoured by predators of the night. I just like didn't really feel like I fit anywhere. And I spent a lot of time just wandering around trying to figure out where I was going, especially in that age. Yeah, I just really connected with punk rock on a lot of levels in my youth going through that stuff. I just loved listening to Pennywise. Like all of their music was just like, I'm going to make my own rules, fuck this shit. And just kind of that rebellious mentality that I was feeling in my heart because I was so pissed off about, moving. And so I connected to it. And it just like, it came into my life and became this huge piece of who I was. And it also really established and created a pathway for me in music into like where I went with heavier music later on. I always listened to like rock and stuff, and I've talked about that, like Metallica and like the grunge era and all of that. But the punk rock was just like this, like more screamy. It was faster. There was just like a lot of stuff going on with punk that was different than what I was listening to. Anyway, I just really connected with the whole mentality of like the messaging in punk rock and how it was just like, I'm gonna fucking fuck everyone. I'm just gonna do what I want. Pennywise was one of my favorite bands. I just loved fucking every song on like About Time, and like I also loved Rancid, all of their albums. And Tim Armstrong and Lars Fredriksson were just like my two favorite musicians back then. I loved everything they did. I loved Tim Armstrong and how he acted on stage, and like little hat, his guitar and his like little spins, and Lars's like just growly voice, right? When he broke off and did like Lars and the Bastards, I loved all of those albums. And then when Tim Armstrong went on and like did the Transplants and Travis Barker, that was fucking awesome. I love the Transplants. That whole sound is super cool. And I loved the shows so much and how they were kind of always like a secret, like it was just this kind of underground mentality because it wasn't a huge like popular scene. And I think about that too, how in those moments, like in your youth when you're having these like super fucking awesome times and you don't really know until later on in your life like how fucking lucky you are to be in that whole era. I think about growing up in the 90s now and how fucking lucky I am to have grown up in those years and just how special all the music and the bands that came out of the 90s were. I don't think any of us really thought it was that big of a deal, right? Nothing really that special, I don't think, has happened since then. There's some great bands that have come out, and I'm like diving back into that. I've had a really long, weird journey through music over my life with like dipping in and out of things and feeling like I'm really into it and then stepping back and just like only sticking with certain bands that I only want to listen to because I just don't feel like trying to, listen to something new. And there wasn't a lot going on that I really connected to in a lot of years of my life. So I have jumped around. I definitely stalled out quite a bit in my 30s, I guess, with music, where I just only listened to the shit that I loved from like way back. And then I just was really resistant to moving into the future of like what was going on with the metal scene and the newer pieces of that genre. I had a lot of resistance around that. I've dived into it now just in the last like 5 years, and there's some cool shit in there. There's some stuff that's weird, but there's definitely some cool shit in there. And I think just like as we move through life, right, things change. I have had like some people say to me, just with my overall outlook on music and the music that I listen to and the bands that I connect with, some of them are just like, you don't know this and you don't know that. And I want to touch base on that really briefly too, of like how people connect to music and then this whole mentality. And I don't know if it's just like the metal scene that's like this or if it's like that with all different genres, but I find that it is talked about quite a bit in like the metal scene, how much you know about a band and how many times you've seen them and how much information you can like spew out in 5 minutes minutes. And then people seem to like grade you on the amount that you know about something. And I find that really irritating. It's just like so egocentric and it's so ego fed and it's really hard to handle. We don't all live the same lives, right? Like we don't all move through our worlds in the same way. And just because I didn't listen to a certain band in my lifetime doesn't mean that I'm a lesser person than someone else. And that whole mentality is really strange to me, because just because I love the metal world doesn't mean that I'm going to know everything that there is to know about the metal world. I'm really passionate about music, and I think a lot of people are, but how we move through it and the information that we pick up about the things that we love just depends on who we are and how we live our lives. It doesn't mean that someone is like less of a fan or you don't know shit about shit because you don't know this, right? Like that whole mentality is just kind of gross to me. And I get really tired of hearing it. Like if you connected to something really hardcore in your youth and it has like a special spot in your soul, I understand that because I have bands that are like that for me too. Are they always going to be the same as the person sitting next to you, the person that you're talking to? Absolutely not. My brother and I have conversations about Avenged Sevenfold all the time. I have zero love for Avenged Sevenfold. I don't like them at all. I don't love the sound. I don't love his voice. I listened to them a bit in like the mid 2000s, like 2006 when those albums were out. The new stuff I don't like. He says that the newer stuff, the newest stuff is better, but I'm just like, I don't have time for that. I've tried over my life to listen to this guy and his band, and it doesn't land on me in a way that I love. So I'm not going to listen to it. I'm totally open to talking about all bands, and I'm totally open to listening to all bands, and I will do that. Do I have an opinion about every single one of them? Do I know every single fucking band out there? No. And if you do, that's great. And I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not. And I'm not going to sit here and like try to argue with anybody about like the knowledge level that I have around music, that I'm a bigger fan because I know more, or you're a bigger fan because you know more. Because at the end of the day, it just doesn't fucking matter. Like, I don't give a fuck about that stuff. And if you want to throw shade at me because you feel like I don't know enough about a certain specific topic, it doesn't actually bother me because I know where I've been in my life and I know where I stand with the love that I have for music. And that is good enough for me. And I've created this podcast just to like ramble and see if it connects with anyone. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. It just is not a big deal to me. But the whole mentality around like, you know, throwing people in these categories and boxes of like based on what you listen to and you're like this because you like this. I just am not into that. I don't give a fuck. If you like certain bands and I don't, that's cool. Like we still can connect on lots of other levels and lots of other ways. And I'm good with that. And I'm good with where I am and who I am in my life. So I don't really have anything to prove to anybody. I'm just sitting here kind of rambling. All I want to do with this podcast is just talk about shit that I'm passionate about, throw in some mental health stuff. Music is literally my therapy. I have really connected with it over my lifetime, and I have a deep, deep connection to music. And that's what I want to talk about. I'm just sitting here as a fan, as a person, rambling about shit that I feel like talking about. That's all I'm doing. So punk rock, you guys, like I just really connected with it in a way that really helped me through a hard time in my life. And that whole scene and like all the friends that I met through that, it was just like a really big piece of my coming of age years. It just opened so many doors in music for me and into like these different aspects of more screaming and heavier, and really into like my eventual love for heavy metal and all things heavy metal. And we all go through these journeys with our music. And a lot of us that listen to metal didn't start out listening to metal, right? We started in like the rock and then hard rock and then harder rock and then whatever. Like everyone kind of progresses, I feel like, into like these deeper, harder areas of music. Some people never progress past like hard rock, whatever, right? It just depends on where the music takes you in your life. I definitely loved the fast pace, heavy drumming and the screaming and all the things that came with punk rock. And then when I got into like heavier stuff, I was just couldn't get enough of it. I was like, what else is out there, right? And then once you open one door, you open another, and then you open another, and then you just keep going. That's my experience. That's what I went through. And just like wherever it takes you is where it takes you. I also grew up in the 90s. I didn't grow up in the 70s and 80s. So a lot of the music that came before that, I didn't have a lot of exposure to. I mean, I have dug into like older metal. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne, I fucking loved Ozzy Osbourne, but there's a lot of older metal bands that I just missed the ship on, right? And if you don't have exposure to something in your lifetime, then you're not going to connect with it. And so it just was not on. There's a lot of bands that I just missed out on. And some of them I did go and listen to a lot more later in life. I didn't grow up listening to Slayer. I did spend a lot of time listening to Slayer in my 20s, but definitely not in my teen years. And before that, I went to a Slayer concert in my 20s, but it was just a band that I didn't really connect with like wholeheartedly as a lot of people I know did. Same with Pantera. I really like Pantera, but I wasn't on the wave of like when they were really big and popular and everyone was listening to them. I wasn't really listening to them then. I listened to them later on. Yes, I do really like them, but it wasn't for whatever reason, whatever was going on in my life during that period of time, I missed that boat too. I just like wasn't on it. Yeah. So it just kind of depends on who you are and what you're going through in your life, where the music fucking takes you, and what events you're going to and who you're hanging out with and like what job you're at and like what your nightlife is like and where you're spending your time. For each of us, that's different. I don't know where you guys were. I was spending a lot of my time in punk rock shows in my youth. And then in my like teens, I kind of dipped out of music for a while because I was really into boys. And then I was like in the bars and doing a bunch of like young, late teens, early 20s stuff. And I just kind of lost myself in my youth for a while and disconnected from a lot of things. I also started working in emergency services. And with that, my whole life like just kind of took off in this weird direction. And I lost sight of who I was for quite a while. And I've talked about that in some of my previous podcasts. But your life experiences just take you down different roads and different avenues. And we dip in and out of things. But back to punk rock, I don't really have a lot more to say about punk rock other than I fucking love it. And I delved into some really awesome bands in my teen years that were really fun. The Descendants, I loved Descendants a lot. Their albums I found just like really funny and like silly and upbeat and just easy to like bob around to. I also, oh God, I listened to the Sex Pistols for a while. I fucking loved the Sex Pistols. And I felt like I had to hide that band from my parents though. I don't think they knew that I was listening to a lot of the things that I was listening to back then. But it was a lot of fun. The scene was really fun. I had such a good time in those years of my life. And I haven't listened to it in a long time. I do put on random like albums of old punk bands that I listened to a long time ago. I really don't listen to it much anymore. Every once in a while I throw it on at the gym. And I do love it. Maybe I should start listening to it again. But I have absolutely no idea what's going on in the punk world at all now in the 2020s. So if you guys have like bands that you listen to that you really love, hit me up. I would love to hear a few newer ones that are like established out there. I don't know what the punk scene looks like anymore. I'm so far down into like the metal and heavy metal scene now that I've just kind of like I just don't listen to it much anymore. I did though actually have one punk band that came up on my playlist not long ago. They were an Australian punk band called the Dune Rats. This random song called, what the fuck was it called? Bullshit came up on my playlist, and I was like, oh, what is this? This is fucking funny. And I should play it for you guys. I'll play it for you guys. And they sounded a lot like some of the bands that I used to listen to in high school. And so I was like, these guys are cool. I listened to a couple of albums and they were fun. So I don't know. We're checking out if you guys are looking for something to listen to and you haven't heard of them. There's some funny songs on here. And that's one thing I like about punk music too, is that they're always like making fun of people in like lighthearted and silly ways, but they're also like just kind of against the rules, just anti everything. I think anti just fucking normal life, anti perfect shit. I was just like, fuck everything back then. And I guess I still kind of, in a way, I am like that a little bit, where I just, don't tell me what to do. And I love that about punk rock. It definitely resonated with me as a angsty teenager. Yeah, so they're cool. I don't know. I think they're worth checking out. And yeah, if you guys have a band that you would like me to listen to, I would love to know what's going on in the punk world. I could also dive into it, I guess, and then come back around and do a podcast about what I found. That might be a good episode. I should tell you guys on that note that like when I do talk about music, there's something you should know about me. That because of all the shit I've gone through and with my mental health over the last 10 years, I've really like put myself into a bubble. And I really like living in my bubble. It's just like a safe space for me to exist. So when I talk about music and I talk about what I'm listening to and like the things that I'm talking about is all, it stems from just pieces of me. Really, I don't have a lot of outside influence in my life anymore. I like it that way. I have turned off the media. I don't listen to the news. I don't read the newspapers. I don't have satellite radio. I don't listen to regular radio. I don't have Sirius radio. I don't know what people are talking about in the music world unless I see it on social media. I do follow my favorite bands on social media. That's how I get my information. I don't watch like anything really. I have not a lot of clue what's going on in the world. That might create a reaction in you, and that's okay. I'm okay with where I'm at, and I'm in this space for a reason because I like being in this space. I hear things. I'm not like oblivious to what's going on in the world. I do stay in tune with things that are going on, but I don't actively go out and search for things. And if I hear something interesting, then I'll go and look up information about it if I choose to. And really, all that stuff is just fucking not truthful or exaggerated. And it just really like puts us in this headspace of being distracted by things. We're so busy looking at all these things that we're not paying attention to what we should be paying attention to, which is ourselves and our families and showing up in our fucking lives like real humans. Remember when we used to look each other in the eyes and have real like in-person conversations and like not be staring at our fucking phones all the time? I miss that. I miss the 90s. Another reason that I was so fucking lucky to grow up in that era, I guess. Anyways, yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about punk rock is just that I fucking love it and it really helped me through some hard times in my life. And there's some really good bands out there from like the late 80s and early 90s and just like some cool shit. And I love it. There was one other piece that I wanted to briefly talk about today, and that's death metal. I said in a previous podcast that death metal isn't really my thing. And again, I've said this, I don't like the labels associated to music and the genres and the different like layers of who is what and what is who. I can't fucking keep up with that shit. I find it really confusing. I don't actually like think a lot of it is accurate. But it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to be able to fucking change anything about that. So I was like, let's look up death metal. And then all these bands that I listened to came up. So fuck, I guess I listen to death metal. I listen to a little bit of everything. There is some stuff that's like too aggressive for me. But then sometimes I feel like really listening to super aggressive stuff. So I don't know. I guess I listen to like everything. I did come across this music like section in Spotify that was called melodic death metal. And I was like, well, that sounds fucking awesome. And it is awesome. It's like a lot of bands that I already listen to. But I was like, well, what's melodic death metal? I mean, I don't know what the fuck that is. What do you guys think that is? I was like, what aspects are the melodic part? Is it the singing or is it like the guitar, like the music piece of it? I don't really know. I was like, what's melodic death metal? And so I clicked on it and like In Flames was in there. Okay. I guess pieces of In Flames could be considered melodic. Arch Enemy was in there and I was like, I don't know about that. Maybe. I don't see them being like super melodic, but I also haven't listened to very many of their like newer albums, so I don't know. Guess there are some pieces of metal that I just like have no fucking clue. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Do you guys like what would you guys put into that category of like melodic death metal? Some of you might be sitting there going like, "Don't you know what that is?" Well, not really. I mean, I don't spend my time focused on like different fucking labels of shit. I find that stuff exhausting. A lot of the time I'm just like on the move, right? And so I'll put on a playlist and I'll just fucking listen to it. And if there's something I like, I'll click yes, I like that. And then if I have time later, I'll go look into it. And really like the longer I listen to a band and the more I get into a band, the more I'm going to dig into them too, right? Like I spent a lot of time following different bands throughout my life. Like I just talked about Tim Armstrong and Lars Fredriksson because I fucking love those guys. Whenever they did something, I was like, what are they doing? Because they're fucking awesome and I want to know. So yes, I do look into things, but it also depends on like if I'm really into them or not. Because if I'm just like sort of averagely into them, I'm not going to put my energy into finding all this stuff out. So I guess because of that, like it just depends on what I'm listening to and what information gets stored in my memory bank about what I'm listening to at the time. You know, it comes and goes. It's in and out. There's going to be episodes probably where I have like all this fucking information for you guys and I'm just ranting about shit that I love, and then some days where I want to talk about a band that I don't know that much about, and maybe I'll dig into it with like a guest or something. My brother, like I said, wants to come on and talk about Marilyn Manson. I don't have anything to say about Marilyn Manson. But I think it'll be super fun to listen to him talk about it and to have a conversation about all the things that he wants to talk about regarding Marilyn Manson, because he finds him really interesting. And there's pieces of his music that he really fucking loves. I would love to sit down and hear what he has to say about it. We're still trying to schedule that. He's just really fucking busy. Yeah, melodic death metal. I don't know. I don't have a lot more to say about that. That's all I really wanted to say about it, was that like maybe I should know that that exists. But there's so many pieces about the music world that I don't know exist. I just let the music play. I just find something that I like and then I go with it. And then if it leads me to something else, I go with that. I have 2 fucking kids and my life is busy, and I think that's okay. I also find that there's like just so many pieces of the music world that are exhausting, and I'm not a competitive person like at all. I think that competitions are really egocentrical. And the only reason to really be the best at anything in any category of your life is just for bragging rights, and that stuff exhausts me. I went to Lincoln Park in September with my brother, and fuck, that show was really good, by the way. Emily Armstrong is killing it. I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but for me personally, as a huge lifelong Linkin Park fan, I fucking love her. She is a powerhouse. She definitely is doing that band justice and helping bring that band back to life. It was a fucking amazing show. It was so good. I'm always a fan of women in the heavy metal scene, music scene, hard rock scene, grunge scene. Anyways, I went to the show with my brother in Vancouver. And before the show, we were sitting at a bar. I was chatting with one of his buddies about our love for Linkin Park and just music in general. We were talking about Alice in Chains and how much we love Alice in Chains. And then I said to him, "Oh, I almost wore my Alice in Chains shirt to the show." And he looked at me like I was a psychopath. And he was like, "What?" And he was like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "Well, why not?" And he got really upset and like proceeded to like explain to me all these reasons why people shouldn't wear like other band shirts to concerts. And I was like, "Well, I just think that's fucking bullshit." Like, I don't agree with that at all. And we don't have to all agree on things, but like I've been to a ton of shows in my life, and like who fucking cares what shirt you're wearing? If you go to a heavy metal show and you're wearing another heavy metal band shirt, no one's gonna fucking care. Most of the time when you walk by someone wearing a different heavy metal band shirt, you're like, fuck yeah, that guy also likes a band that I like. Or fuck yeah, look at that chick is wearing that shirt. So maybe she's been to that show. That's awesome. It's just like, it was just such a weird comment. And maybe there are lots of people out there that feel that way, that are just like, you only can wear the band that you're going to shirt to the show. I definitely disagree with that. I think that's horseshit. I think that's a load of garbage. And don't tell me what to do. I'm going to wear whatever the fuck I want. I was a little like irritated by his comment, because I was just like, what? Do people actually feel that way? Like, do you get angry when you see someone wearing a band shirt at a concert that isn't playing at the show? What is that about, really? I just think you should show up in whatever way that you fucking want to and live life however the fuck you want to. If you're not like physically harming anyone, live your best life. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? I'm going to put on whatever I want and I'm going to wear whatever I want. So I don't give a fuck about that kind of shit. Anyway, speaking of like apparel and concert apparel, I do have a quick rant for all the women out there. I would like to talk about the fact that like every time I go to a fucking concert, I have to stand in line for an hour to get a shirt that's not going to fucking fit me because I'm a girl, and all the fucking apparel that is always sold at these concerts is like unisex or men's sizes, usually unisex. And let's be honest, like unisex is just glorified men's clothing. It's not made for women. It's not made for our shape. It's just fucking box cut, right? Like, It's not a women's line. It's not going to fit us properly. We're just like getting a shirt that is going to like, that we're going to have to cut up later or fucking never wear. And the sizes are so disproportioned. I'm either getting a shirt that's going to be too fucking small for me or too fucking big for me. It's really hard to win with concert attire, like in general, as women. So if there are any bands out there listening, like even one woman's option, preferably black, obviously, but like one women's option. There are a lot of women and girls that fucking listen to hardcore music, and we're out there and we like to fucking get band shirts too, and we want something that fits. So that's super annoying. I think it's bullshit. I talked to my brother about it briefly. My brother was like, order stuff online because he says that's easier. And so I took his advice and I was like, well, a lot of my favorite bands don't, tour around here. So I'm not going to go to their shows because they're all from overseas, Europe, fucking Sweden, Switzerland, UK. I'm definitely not going to be able to rip over there and go see a show anytime soon. So I decided to order a couple things online. I mentioned to you guys before that I ordered an Eminence hoodie, and I got that. And I ordered a medium because I thought it was unisex, but it must have been men's because it's so fucking big it comes down to my knees. And now I don't know if I can wear it. And I'm super pissed about that because it's not like I can go fucking return it because it's from the UK. I also, like last year, ordered a hoodie from Berry Tomorrow, and that was unisex, and I ordered it in a small because normally unisex, that's what size I wear. And it's so fucking tiny that I can't get my head in it, and the sleeves are so short. And so that's annoying because I want to wear my band shit and I can't wear my band shit because it never fucking fits me. So that's my rant for all the girls out there. I don't know if it's like that in like the country and pop world. Did they have women's options? Anyway, I just think it's shit. On that note, while I'm ranting about bands that are overseas, I have one other quick rant. This is less about music and more about just me ranting today. But anyway, that's the fucking mood I'm in. All of my favorite heavy metal bands are overseas, like Berry Tomorrow, Eminence. There's like In Flames is over there. There's a bunch. There's a whole bunch. Maybe I should go overseas and just spend a month fucking going to concerts. I would love that. But I do have a bone to pick with all of the people that are coming over to North America to tour and going all the way across the States and then only coming up to Canada and going to Montreal and Toronto. Like, what the fuck is up with that? How come they only touch down on the East Coast and they do 2 shows in Canada? 2. Every time I see a band is coming to North America, I'm like, fuck yes, I want to go see them. And then I check the Canada listings and it's always just fucking Montreal and Toronto. And they literally go all the way through the States and across the States, all the way to fucking Seattle, which is like a spitting distance away from Vancouver. And they don't come over to Vancouver. That makes no sense to me. We have so many fucking Canadian fans over here. I want to go to metal shows too. It was cheaper for me to go down to Utah last year and see Berry Tomorrow in Utah than it would have been for me to fly to Montreal or Toronto because it's so fucking expensive to get across Canada and so far, right? I don't know why it's like that. I would like to see some of these bands. So if you're listening, come to the West Coast. The West Coast is awesome. Anyways, I think that's like kind of all I have to talk about today. I've had like a bit of a rough week, so I haven't been feeling like super sharp this week. And hopefully I talked enough about music for you guys, mostly just ranting, but there is some music stuff in there. So there's that. I've just been like having some big fucking crashes with my mental health. So the fact that I'm even doing this today is a miracle, really. If I seem a little grumpy, it's because I am. I haven't had a lot of sleep. My 5-year-old woke me up at 4:30 this morning, and he decided that that was the best time to start the day. So maybe I'm not top form today. I want to be like doing these podcasts once a week. The Metal Talks is a big deal for me because I love talking about music. So I want to hammer these out and have some things thrown out there. I didn't actually play more than one song today, which I thought I would. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up by talking about Spirit Box because I saw that they were at the Grammys, and the only reason I know that is because I follow them on Instagram, and I clicked on a video and I was like, what the fuck? Are they on stage at the Grammys? And then I actually wasn't sure if I believed it or not. So I had to text my brother and I was like, is this real? Like, are they actually at the Grammys? And he was like, yeah, they're at the Grammys. I got a kick out of that. I had a good laugh actually, because I was like, is the crowd okay? Like, Spirit Box is like, I don't listen to Spirit Box a lot. My brother really loves them. He's been trying to get me to listen to them for the last year. And I've been like kind of dipping in and out. I will listen to a couple songs and I'm like, yeah, this is okay. And then I kind of lose interest and then I go back into it. And so I'm slowly feel like I'm coming around to like listening to them more again. any fucking woman in the heavy metal world doing that is fucking amazing in my eyes. So I think it's really cool. She's a badass, but I think it's like hilarious that they played at the Grammys because they're not like, and they played Soft Spine, which is not like one of their more mellow songs. Like it's pretty heavy. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, I was just sitting there imagining all the like country and pop singers sitting in the crowd watching this band play and laughing to myself because I thought the image of that was really satisfying for me. Are they going to be okay after that? Yeah, I don't know what's coming next, you guys. I'm hoping a podcast with my brother, but if not, I'll find something else to talk about. I have lots of bands I want to dig into. And if you have a request for something that you want me to dig into, I can, whether I've checked it out or not, I can do that. We could also have a chat if you want to come on the show and talk to me about something that you're super stoked on and that you have a lot of passion to talk about regarding a heavy metal band or mental health and heavy metal or whatever. Hit me up, you guys. The thing that I love about Arch Enemy and Spirit Box is like half the time you wouldn't even know that it's like a female vocalist. And you're just like, what? How do you do that with your voice? Like, that's crazy. Anyway, punk rock and melodic death metal. That was a good chat today, you guys. If you have topics that you would like me to discuss, hit me up. And that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll headbang through it next time on the Metal Talks. Peace.